Hello there, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the podcast. Sorry, we've not been around for a bit. I'm going to say I went to see Guns N' Roses yesterday, which was really good fun, and I'm a bit tired today, so getting old and all that. But anyway, so let's dive straight in. What topic would you like to talk about from today's Watson's Daily, Duncan?
Yeah, so I picked a story out of The Guardian, which sounds incredibly dry on the face of it, but I promise it's not as dry as it sounds.
Yeah.
So it's about the Office for National Statistics, rock and roll, Guns N'
Yeah.
Roses, stuff, keeping in theme. And it's basically, the article's about the problems and how deep-seated the problems of the ONS are, and the fact it needs a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
And I said this to you on the call we had before recording this. The reason I picked this is because in my head, while reading this headline, I was going, yeah, about flipping time.
Yeah.
And the first thing you've written in the So What section of Watson's Daily is, two, right?
Yeah.
And it really is. So, like I said, this is based on a review recently which laid into the ONS pretty much, recommended a kind of a £10 million overhaul and splitting the top role in two to allow for kind of better workload management and better kind of efficiency. And I think, like I said, too right. The ONS has been, I feel harsh calling it useless, but below the standard it should be, considering what they specialise in for a while. Particularly if you look at kind of employment statistics and things like that, it's not hitting the standards it probably should be. And I think this is one of those, like I said, the subject sounds quite dry, sounds quite boring. And a lot of people might sit there and go, well, great, how does this impact me? But realistically, a lot of institutions use the ONS to base their kind of decisions on, base their forecasting on. So it's not just a kind of a load of statistics you can use for memes or to be good at pub quizzes or, 8 out of 10 cats, should you watch that TV show. People like the Bank of England base their decisions on statistics. Yeah. And obviously the Office for National Statistics, as the name implies, should be a really good place to find statistics across the nation. Yeah. So if you consider the kind of Bank of England might be basing their interest rate decisions on this, their base rate decisions on this, that would then impact things like, everything. That could affect your credit card rate, it could affect your mortgage rate, it could affect all sorts of things. If the original statistic there isn't great, it's going to kind of exponentially get worse as each decision gets made. So it's a few percent out to start with in terms of accuracy. By the time you get to your mortgage rate or your credit card rate, it could be slightly further out, and it could then be kind of having a knock-on effect in a lot of places. Yeah. And we were kind of discussing this before recording this. It's kind of in the title, Office of National Statistics. It kind of says what they should be good at in their title, and if they're not good at it, for me, that's a bit of a problem. And like I said, because so many things are based on it, I thought it's just kind of an interesting thing to discuss. So, what's your kind of feeling on this one?
I think they're useless.
I was trying so hard not to use that word.
I think they're useless. Really, like you say, clues in the name. If you can't do statistics and you work for the Office for National Statistics, you do have to question your life choices. I think that I'm sure they work very hard. But if you're not doing it right, why is it taking this long? I believe that that it was greatly affected. The difficulty of collecting the statistics really came in under lockdown. So now I don't know exactly, but I presume what happens is they send out a survey with a load of questions, and someone at an organisation has to fill this thing in. And it seems that fewer businesses were willing to fill this in. Now, I think what they need to do, if they're having trouble collecting these statistics, maybe the government has to get involved and sort of go, well, if you don't fill this in, either, you have to give us a written reason why, or you will get a fine, or something. Now, I don't know. I presume if anything to do with public, sorry, this sounds so terrible, but anything to do with public sector tends to be highly bureaucratic. I can imagine that there's probably pages of this, stuff you have to fill in. I don't know. I might be wrong. But my point would be, the Office for Statistics, you would have thought, would have to maybe do slightly different surveys for different size of company, because you don't. I mean, if you like a tiny company and you've got one person or 5 people, and you get slapped with, you have to fill this thing in like straight away, otherwise you're going to get a fine or whatever. It's not fair. Versus say a multinational company with legions of people in, I don't know, HR or something. That's not fair. So maybe perhaps they need to have like different, size requirements, and then you get a slight for a smaller company, it's very simple. For a larger company, they can try and get a bit more information, because obviously the more information they get, the more accurate a picture they can paint, and the more useful this becomes. So there has to be a balance. Clearly, that's not really happened, and a lot of that has, I think, been prompted by the, by lockdown. Now, this, unfortunately, as you touched on, this means that essentially the Bank of England is kind of flying blind. It doesn't just use the ONS statistics, right? So, but it uses other ones, and the whole idea is you use different sources, and then they kind of check against each other. Because if one is really, really different to what the others are saying, you want to look at why. You want to look at the outlier. So to have one less, major source is problematic. And whereas maybe in the past we could have got away with this because we had, 0 interest rates or nigh on that, it kind of, doesn't matter too much. You don't have to worry too much. But at the moment, we're in a world where it sounds like a Hollywood movie thing. In a world with, high inflation. We've got a world which is uncertain in global, global economics. Although I have just seen that the S&P 500 hit, record levels or something, because supposedly America has signed deals with 10 countries or something, which is getting everyone excited. Although I'm thinking, why get excited? Because that Trump can change his mind. And, anyway. So anyway, at the moment, we are in uncertain times, and I feel that it's, of all times, now is the time to have accurate statistics so you can make the right response. Now, obviously, that's relying on, if they can provide the right statistics, they've done their job. Then it's next for, Andrew Bailey and his chums at the Bank of England to make the right decision, which he's not that good at either. But
but that's what I mean. It becomes a snowball effect, doesn't it? If the statistics are bad, then the decision's slightly iffy. By the time it gets to the consumer, you're being absolutely ruined by something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, so we'll see, right? So we'll see what happens. But they've got to sort something out very quickly, because we really need. It's not like we didn't need this before, but we really, really, really need it now. So, yes. So there we go.
There we go. Office National Statistics, not as dry as it sounds, right?
And also, exactly.
The other thing that bugged me reading some of these stories today about the same subject was the kind of rhetoric coming out that, statistics is really difficult.
Yeah.
As well. I was just going, if you're working for the ONS and that's what you're saying, you're in the wrong job. It'd be, I think I said to you earlier, it'd be like someone at Clifford Chance going, "Oh, this law stuff, bit hard, isn't it?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're in the wrong job. And you think statistics is too difficult.
Yeah, just get on with it. Do the job. And if you can't do the job, find something else.
Yes.
So
anyway, moving swiftly on from the wonderful story that is the Office of National Statistics. I'm assuming you're going to tell us about Guns N' Roses for yours, are you? One man tribute act.
Yeah, Aging Rockers did well, great atmosphere. Although Wembley Stadium got it wrong in terms of when the start time was. So actually, when they struck up Welcome to the Jungle, it felt like the stadium was about 2/3 full, which is a bit strange, for a group like that. So, but then, later on, when people started filtering in, then it felt a bit better. But I felt sorry for Axl Rose and the boys, and lady. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, right. So let's talk about the other story. From today that I particularly enjoyed, and that was a story about Xiaomi, which is a Chinese company well known for making phones. Basically, it is sort of seen as the cheap and cheerful Apple phone. Looks cool, good functionality at a reasonable price, right? Mm-hmm. So that's it's done very well in China. It's made inroads around the world, and has done really well. And they a few years ago decided that they were going to make a car. Now we know that Apple tried to make a car in Project Titan, and everyone was saying it's this secret project that everyone knew about.
Worst kept secret ever, that one.
Yeah.
We all knew what it was going to look like as well.
Whatever you do, don't talk about Project Titan because it's a secret. Okay, don't tell anyone. So yeah, that was going for years. And in the end, they just sort of went, actually, we can't do it anymore. And so anyway, so this is a bit of a lesson for Apple because Xiaomi has just come out with this amazing looking SUV. So it's the YU7 SUV. It looks like, I mean, I know I'm going to sound very boring here, and I apologise for this, but like I am interested in cars, right? I'm not an expert, but this YU7 SUV, from the pictures I've seen, looks very similar to the Ferrari Purosangue, which is the Ferrari's, SUV that brought out last year, and costs the thick end of 500 grand. Especially if you get a couple of cup holders and stuff.
You've got a steering wheel. It's about 500 grand.
So, yeah. Actually, yeah, the car's like two grand, but the steering wheel is actually 450 grand.
Oh, you got wheels?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, gear stick. Oh, yeah.
Radio.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, this car is made by a tech company, and it looks really good. I mean, I don't know whether, I'm not a reviewer. I can't sit in and see if, is it the scratchy plastics, or is, do the gear shifters, do they feel plasticky or something? Does the knob on the radio, I don't know if it has got fall off, that I have no idea, right? But from what I can see, it is a beautiful looking car. It only costs $35,000, $35,370. That is insane. I mean,
and it comes with a steering wheel as standard, so that's
exactly. But I mean, this looks really amazing. So apparently, they unveiled it. They sold 200,000 vehicles in the first 3 minutes. That is unbelievable. So it's clearly a hit. I don't know if it's reliable, if it's comfortable, anything like that. But let's assume that it's at least quite good, and it looks that amazing, and it has the functionality that you'd expect it to have, having been made by a tech company. It sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Now, I mean, like I say, I don't know what it's like. Pretty early. We'll have to wait and see. But it looks good. This also makes me think about things more broadly, in the sense that it's almost like a parallel to what is happening in the tech and car industry outside China. So I was saying in one of this week's editions of Watson's Daily that you've got car companies are pushing back on Apple, and they're saying you're trying to take over the dashboard. So what I mean by that is, for instance, Apple introduced Apple CarPlay Ultra recently. Aston Martin put it in there. I don't know. I don't have an Aston Martin, but that's what it said in that. Yeah. And what was I saying? So they're complaining that. So in normal Apple CarPlay, you can see your maps and you can do your music, right? And that's why people use it. But Apple CarPlay Ultra, you can see more stuff that would normally be associated with the dashboard, like temperature and other things.
Yeah.
And the car companies are saying, we don't want that because you're taking over our valuable real estate space on the dashboard, and we want to charge people for our in-house systems.
Mm-hmm.
And because the thing is, it seems that cars are becoming commoditized. I think EVs in particular could become commoditized. And that means that the margin gets thinner. And so they've got to think of ways of trying to add value that they can charge for.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I just think this is amazing because it looks again like China is really in the lead. It's in the fast lane. Both from the car point of view and the tech point of view, and all the sort of legacy car makers are having a fight about who has what space. And let's be honest, I mean, car companies are not known for doing good software.
No.
And you think, is it worth fighting over now? Because ultimately, if there's too much of a fight and they go, right, we'll only have Android Auto in this car and not Apple CarPlay, there will be a lot of people who won't buy the car because they just want to sit in, listen to their own music and use the maps. Mm-hmm. Because again, in-car navigation is rubbish. Especially if it's a car that's not absolutely brand new with the latest version. Mm-hmm. You're far better off on, I think Waze is really good. So, mm-hmm. Google Maps or Waze or whatever. So I don't know. I think that if they try to fight this battle, they will lose the war.
So I think they'll be better off, like the traditional car companies here, charging people a fee to be able to connect to Apple CarPlay and just letting Apple CarPlay, Apple do the bit they're good at, which is the tech. It's not, my car, if you go for premium connectivity, is what they call it, allows you to use Spotify, YouTube, and that stuff in the car. Uh-huh. So I don't see why you wouldn't just build that in and go, do you know what? Actually, yeah, you can use CarPlay Ultra or whatever it's called, but it's going to cost you whatever a month to make that software work through your screen. And because, like I said, what car companies have got increasingly bad at is the tech side of things, which is why I find this Xiaomi thing really interesting, because actually it looks really good. A lot of car makers make cars that look really good. Oh. There might be some slightly more budget materials in. A lot of car makers use cars with budget materials in. Oh. The tech will be outstanding, and that's where most car makers fall down.
Yeah.
And because considering it's a fraction of the price, I think that makes this really, really interesting. I was going to say, it looks really good. Like, I genuinely, if you're listening to this or watching this, I would go and, if you're a car person, go and Google what this thing looks like.
Yeah.
If not, imagine, like I said, imagine the Ferrari, or imagine like a Porsche Taycan Turbo, slightly more beefy on the Porsche than the Ferrari. But if you're a car person, go and Google it. They look fantastic, and they've got like a massive long heads-up display as standard. They've got it looks like rear screens as standard. So much stuff that you'd normally pay thousands of pounds extra for as standard. So I think on the basis the tech's going to be good. If I was a traditional car manufacturer, I'd be worried and be looking at other ways to get good tech into your car rather than developing it yourself, because
you really do. I think you're right. I mean, the tech, you want the tech in your car to work.
Ideally,
and do you? Yeah, because it's not a great place if you're driving along at speed and then your tech just cuts out.
I've told you a story, haven't I, about one of my friends has just changed their other car, EV, for a Tesla. Yeah. And the main reason was because, I'm not going to name the manufacturer because I think it's a bit harsh, but their heads-up display, which is the only place you could see the speed of the car, kept going blank. Randomly, just driving somewhere, just completely black. Wow. And when they took it back to the manufacturer, the response they got was basically, we don't really know. Hopefully the next software upgrade will fix it. That's why I'm not going to name the manufacturer, but the response was basically, hopefully the next upgrade will fix it.
Yeah.
Not we can fix that now. It was like, well, it's going to keep happening. Hopefully the next upgrade will fix it.
The other thing, I mean, the other thing is, of course, is if it's car manufacturer, they've got someone else they can blame. Yeah. So they can say, well, it's not us. it's it's Apple or it's
Mhm.
whatever. I don't know. I think that you want the software specialist to make the software,
Yeah.
and you want the car specialists to make the cars in an
Yeah.
ideal world. Now, in Xiaomi's case, obviously they're trying to do both.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very impressive. It's a sign of the times. It does make me think that established manufacturers have not got as much time as they would like to think they have in order to catch up. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
Particularly like I think I said this to you earlier. The traditional manufacturers have this habit of going, "Oh, it's a much cheaper version. People won't buy it because they'll assume it's not as good." And they made that mistake a few years ago when Dacia first came to the UK, going, "Oh, well, who's going to buy a car that's like 9995 with no radio as standard?" And now you look at the roads now. There's Dacias everywhere.
yeah,
Because actually, if it does the job and it looks all right, which they do,
yeah,
like people don't care. If it's much cheaper, people are going to go for it because
yeah,
it's much cheaper. I think they could fall into this trap again and go, "Oh yeah, but why would they buy that 30 grand like Chinese knockoff?"
yeah,
They're not going to buy it because they're going to assume it's going to be bad. People are going to go, "No, it looks good. The photos look good. It looks real. Like it's got high level of tech. You know the tech's going to be good. Like actually, why wouldn't you buy it?" And I think that the manufacturers could get caught out if they fall into that trap of just assuming it's not going to take off as much as I think it will.
No, agreed. So yeah, so I think the EV battlefield is getting harder and harder.
Yeah, I would not want to be on the board of Tesla right now, personally, because I think it looks really bleak for them.
Yeah, I do as well. So
because BYD were already doing it, and now Xiaomi have come in, and now BYD will be worried, which means by extension Tesla should be really worried.
Yeah, no, I agree. well, there we go. Fun on another fun Friday, and some interesting subjects there. But anyway, thank you very much as always,
thank you,
Duncan, and thank you for everyone listening or watching, and we'll be back again soon. Many thanks.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
Bye.